You ever hear a place name and just get curious? Wonder what makes it tick, what stories are there?
Happens all the time.
Well, today, that place for us is Hastings, Minnesota. We've pulled together some really interesting details about it.
Yeah, we're going to look at what defines the community a bit. We've got some info on the big Mississippi lock in damn near the city, how they maintain it.
And some history, too, right?
Yeah,
About a rather unique bridge they used to have.
exactly. Plus, we found this comprehensive development plan, but it's actually for Hastings, Nebraska.
Oh, interesting. Nebraska.
Yeah, different state, obviously. But looking at how they plan their city's future might give us some, useful context, maybe some contrasts for thinking about any city named Hastings, including Minnesota's.
Okay, sounds good. Let's start with Hastings, Minnesota, and something right at its core, the Mississippi River. We have this news article about Lock and Dam number 2, which is right there by the city.
Right, it was built in 1948, so relatively speaking, it's one of the younger ones on the upper Mississippi system.
And it's part of a whole chain.
The Army Corps of Engineers runs it. It's one of 29 locks and dams that stretch all the way from Minneapolis down to Granite City, Illinois. It's this whole system that makes shipping possible on that upper part of the river.
The amount of stuff moving through there is kind of staggering. The article mentioned, an average of 6 million tons of goods annually just in the last 3 years.
6 million tons, yeah. It really shows you how vital that piece of infrastructure is.
And what does that kind of traffic mean for a town like Hastings itself?
Now, think about it. That volume suggests support for local industries, maybe farming, manufacturing, logistics, something related to the goods being shipped. It creates a very direct economic link between the river and the town.
Makes sense. And keeping something that vital running takes work. This article talks about a major maintenance project. They call it dewatering.
Right, dewatering. They basically drain the water out of the lock chamber. It's a huge undertaking, happens roughly every 20 years. Lets the engineers get a proper look at everything that's usually underwater.
So they can inspect and repair things properly.
Exactly. The last big one mentioned in our info was scheduled so it would reopen around March 5th, 2025, just in time for the shipping season.
Sounds intense. What were they actually doing down there?
All sorts. Washing the walls, fixing up the concrete, checking the gates. Apparently some newer gates were put in about 3 years before this, and looking at the hinges.
The pinnacle balls.
Yeah, that's the term. Basically giant heavy-duty hinges for those massive lock gates. You need those working perfectly to control the water and let the barges through.
Seems like really meticulous work.
Oh, absolutely. They're not just fixing problems they know about. It's a chance to inspect parts that haven't seen daylight since the last dewatering, which was way back in 2007.
Wow, that long ago.
Yeah. So it's proactive maintenance, trying to catch things early. And it also kind of explains why these locks are needed on the upper Mississippi in the first place.
How so?
Well, the article mentions that further downriver, after big tributaries like the Missouri and the Ohio join in, the Mississippi gets naturally deep and wide enough. Doesn't need locks then.
Ah, okay. So up near Hastings, the river needs this engineering to keep it deep enough for the big boats.
Precisely, to maintain that navigable channel.
Okay, let's shift from current infrastructure to a piece of Hastings history. Something that's gone now, but people still talk about, the Spiral Bridge.
Ah, yes, the Spiral Bridge. Quite famous locally, it seems. Our source material talks about it being the original way US 61 crossed the river there, built way back in 1895.
1895. And the key feature was that spiral ramp, right, on the south end.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That was the really clever part. It let the bridge climb high enough to clear river traffic without having to completely bypass the downtown businesses on 2nd Street. Quite an engineering solution for its time.
It certainly sounds like it. And it was there for a good while.
56 years. Served until 1951 when it was taken down.
Replaced by the Hastings High Bridge, which, our info notes, was itself maybe due for replacement sometime after 2006. That newer bridge took a different path, didn't it?
Yeah, it aligned with Vermilion Street, which meant it kind of bypassed that old downtown route the Spiral Bridge served.
And the article suggests taking down the Spiral Bridge wasn't universally popular then or now.
No, it sounds like a decision that many people in Hastings came to regret. It wasn't just a bridge, it was a landmark, a symbol of the town's connection to the riverfront and that historic commercial area.
You can sort of feel that sense of loss. Its replacement might have been more efficient for traffic, maybe, but it sounds like it changed the feel of the town center.
Arguably, yes. Severed a link, perhaps?
It's interesting, though, that even with the bridge gone, you can still see traces of it. The source mentions the south approach on Second, and Sibley is mostly still there.
Right, except for the final curve onto Vermilion, apparently. Access to 2nd Street now comes off 3rd Street via ramps.
So you can almost stand there and picture how it used to connect, like a ghost of the past in the modern street layout.
And that area it served, the historic business district on 2nd Street between Vermilion and Ramsey. It was actually added to the National Register of Historic Places back in 1978, so its significance is formally recognized.
All right, so that connection is still valued. Okay, so we've touched on present-day river infrastructure and a really significant historical structure in Hastings, Minnesota. Now, let's look at that plan from Hastings, Nebraska, just to get a sense of how a city named Hastings plans its future.
Okay, keeping in mind, this is Nebraska, not Minnesota. Their plan, called Imagine Hastings, sounds like it was a big community effort, adopted back in 2009.
And what are the core ideas?
Well, it talks about a vision, community values, things like wanting to be a self-contained community, improving goods and services, jobs, promoting orderly growth, quality development, using existing infrastructure efficiently.
That sounds like pretty universal stuff, really. Things most cities would aim for.
I'd say so. The desire for planned growth, making the community structure work well, keeping things attractive, that resonates almost anywhere.
What about specifics? Like housing?
They mention an urban residential category in Nebraska's Hastings. This allows for higher density, like 4 to 10 units per acre, smaller lots, often with a grid street pattern.
Which you often find in older parts of cities, right? Could be similar to some areas in Minnesota's Hastings, too, potentially.
Potentially, yes. That older, denser, more connected feel. The Nebraska plan also talks about mixed-use neighborhood centers,
What are those?
sort of small commercial hubs. Think 30,000 to 70,000 square feet. Places with local services, groceries, maybe some personal services, restaurants, gas, offices. They might even have some apartments mixed in. The idea is they serve the nearby neighborhoods, maybe 2,000 to 4,000 households, within about half a mile.
Local hubs. That makes sense. Keeps things convenient for residents.
Yeah, and then for the bigger commercial needs, they envision retail areas along their main roads. Burlington Avenue, Highway 6 are examples in Nebraska, serving the whole community and even the wider region. It's about concentrating that activity where it's accessible.
Makes sense. And transportation must be a big piece of their plan, too.
Oh, definitely. They talk about a connected, efficient road network. They classify roads, arterials, collectors, local roads. Pretty standard planning practice. But they also mention something called character streets.
Character streets.
Yeah, the idea is to build aesthetics into the roadway design, not just function, but how it looks and feels, too, which is an interesting touch.
It is. Shows they're thinking beyond just moving cars.
And Nebraska's Hastings also has an airport, a municipal one, and multiple rail lines, BNSF and Union Pacific. Historically important, apparently there was a naval ammunitions depot during WWII.
Wow, okay.
And still important today for freight, like grains and livestock. And they even have Amtrak passenger service. The California Zephyr route goes through there.
So really strong transport links shaping their past and present.
Definitely. Parks and recreation seem important, too, in Nebraska. They actually have more parkland than the national standard recommends. They mention a trail system, the Pioneer Spirit Trail, as being really key to their quality of life.
That says a lot about their priorities. Green space matters.
Seems so. They also cover civic stuff, city offices, schools, hospitals, seeing them as defining the community, and growth. They aim for a balance. Some outward growth, but also infill development to keep the core strong. Quality matters for visual appeal, too.
What about environmental concerns in Nebraska?
Yeah, they mention worries about water quality, both surface water runoff and groundwater contamination. And flooding, especially as more surfaces become impermeable, like pavement and roofs. So protecting drinking water and preventing floods are clear goals.
Challenges lots of places face. And they mentioned the people.
Right, the human environment, emphasizing that people define the community, the importance of youth, diversity. It's a reminder that a city isn't just buildings and roads.
So, stepping back from the Nebraska plan, even though it's a different place, are there any threads we can maybe connect back to Hastings, Minnesota, based on what we know?
Well, maybe not directly from the sources, but you can see parallels. Both cities, Minnesota and Nebraska, clearly rely heavily on transportation infrastructure. For Minnesota, it's the river, the lock and dam. For Nebraska, it's roads and rail. That infrastructure shapes their economies.
And history matters in both places. The Spiral Bridge memory in Minnesota, that naval depot history near Nebraska's Hastings. The past, leaves its mark.
Exactly. And the ongoing work, like the lock maintenance in Minnesota and the detailed future planning in Nebraska, it just shows that cities are always evolving, always needing attention and investment to thrive.
So, wrapping up our look at Hastings, Minnesota, we've seen how vital that Mississippi River location is, with Lock and Dam number 2 being this crucial, active piece of engineering.
Excellently maintained, keeping commerce flowing.
And we explored the story of the spiral bridge gone, but definitely not forgotten. A really unique piece of history tied to the heart of the old downtown.
It's that combination, isn't it? The practical working infrastructure of today, like the lock and dam, alongside this strong memory of something unique from the past, like the bridge, that really gives Hastings, Minnesota, its particular flavor.
It really does. So here's a thought for you listening. Think about the infrastructure around you. The bridges, roads, maybe canals or railways in your own town or city. Things you might pass every day.
What stories do they hold? If you dug into their history or how they work today, what might that reveal about where you live?
Yeah. If this look at Hastings got you thinking, maybe take a closer look at your own local landmarks. You might find some hidden stories waiting there too.